Good day, I'm Stan Goldstein with Kates-Boylston. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the webinar, Live Streaming in Our Post-Pandemic World. Today we're happy to be joined by Kyle Fogarty, the co-founder of the funeral live streaming platform, MemoryShare. Please submit your questions as you have them using the questions tab on the right side of your screen, and Kyle will answer them. We'll take a break in the middle of the webinar to see if there's any questions, and then he will answer any questions at the end of the webinar. Kyle, please take it away.
Hey, thanks, Stan. Thank you guys all for being here. I hope that we're enjoying our post-lunch lull, and we're going to riff about quite a few things today. For those of you guys who don't know me, I am Kyle. I'm one of the founders of MemoryShare. I'm a little sick. I think that NFDA got me worn down, but we're gonna trudge through this, and I'm really excited that you guys are here. One thing I've noticed, with MemoryShare, we're a live streaming company at our core. We've been doing that since 2012. I actually kind of got into the funeral profession in kind of a roundabout way. One of my good friends, Shane, my co-founder, just kind of approached me with this idea in 2011 to, hey, what do you think about recording funerals? I was semi-professional videographer at the time, working on, political ads and video game, commercials, stuff like that. And it seemed like a no-brainer to me because I'd been filming a bunch of stuff that didn't matter at all. Like who cares about this video game commercial? And funerals, even back then, I was like, oh, that's an extremely important event. We should record those. So him and I got to work, and we were able to land a couple of funeral homes in Minnesota and North Dakota. And thanks to those guys, they really helped us. Those groups really helped us shape what MemoryShare is today. What I've noticed now is that it's been really kind of fun actually to see over the last 11 years, like the changes in the mindset and then the technology, of course. But seeing what it was like to stream or record a service before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and then after. And so thankfully, MemoryShare has been around for those three phases of time. And so we've been able to kind of see the changing in mindset, in numbers and metrics, etc. What I have learned is that now, as we're in this post-pandemic space, and by the way, guys, I'm not going to talk about the pandemic. We don't want to talk about it. We have exhausted that topic. But what we're going to talk about today is SEO, because I'm seeing that a lot right now, especially with the way that websites are changing within the space. So I'm going to actually share about what I'm seeing with SEO in comparison with live streaming. And of course, like I should say, this whole thing, the bedrock of the entire value proposition of live streaming is making sure that the family has access to it. We always want that. We want to record these memories for all the people that we serve is a really, really important piece. But for me as a business owner, anything that I buy or pay for, I want it to return for me. There has to be some sort of ROI in the investment that I'm doing. I know that there are, of course, costs of doing business, but the bottom line is that if you're going to subscribe or pay for something, you want to make it worth it. What we've been able to see is with live streaming, this SEO piece is just we got to talk about it. So what I'm going to talk about today, what I'm hoping that we all leave here with is a very, very basic understanding of SEO, and then a very basic understanding of the technology. And I'm not going to spend that much time on the tech. We've done that a lot. I talked about tech quite a few in quite a few other webinars we've done with Kates-Boylston. So if you want to know more about the technology, please reach out to me directly. I'll put my my contact info at the end. But let's riff about SEO here. So let me get my this bad boy up and running. All right, guys. And I also, before I start here, I got to say a big thank you to my co-founder, Shane. Actually wrote a ton of these slides for me because I was traveling here these last couple of weeks with NFDA and everything. So these are going to be a little bit more colorful, a little bit more exciting than my own slides that I've done in the past. First things first half of this, let's talk about SEO. What is it? A lot of us know, of course, it's search engine optimization. The idea that, we want to make sure that you are the top search result. And why is this important? What's the difference between even being the first and the second click, for instance? Well, if you look at these search results, when somebody is searching for a funeral home near them, it's very common to say, like Dallas Funeral Home near me, or just Dallas Funeral Home or Marshall, Minnesota Funeral Home. And you want to be the first click because when somebody's looking for you and they're on their journey, they have questions or they need immediate need, you want to be that first click because then when they click that, they go to your site, they see your number, and they can call. And this is a mess. This is why companies like answering service, or ASD exists, because like we don't want to miss these phone calls, because what happens if you're the first result and you don't answer the phone? The first thing that that person's going to do is go to the second result, and they're going to call your competitor. So it's a really, really important piece that you are the first point of contact for those who need you. Now, most people, unless you've done some sort of insane amount of branding, most people are going to search and just click the first result. Okay. And that's why it's really important, because we don't want, we don't want these calls going to somebody else if they could be going to you. But how does SEO really, really work? To do this, I want to I want to like put us in Google's position. So when Google was first getting started, which I know is kind of hard to remember, for them, as a search engine, they wanted to provide value to their customers, their clients, the people that were actually using them to find results. So when Google is actually building these results, there's a whole nother webinar I could do on how they even know, that there's 2 funeral homes in Marshall, Minnesota. But for Google, they're trying to figure out, how do we determine what the best result is? Google doesn't have an office in Marshall, Minnesota. Google doesn't have any staff in Marshall, Minnesota. So, boots on the ground level, how are they going to know that Hamilton is better than Horvath or vice versa? There's a couple of different ways they do this, but there's no like clear, okay, Hamilton has the best service. The Google does not know that kind of stuff, but Google was built by a bunch of math and science nerds. And so for them to calculate and build their search results and really improve the quality of the service that Google was offering to people who are searching, they built an algorithm. Okay, and this algorithm is a really, really big piece, but it's built around a few different specific pillars. Now, I've worked with a lot of SEO agencies over the years for my own companies and just freelancing. And I actually consulted with them before doing this webinar to really kind of dig down in and explain to you guys how SEO works within this algorithm. And it's very, very simple. There's 3 main pillars. So number 1 is your popularity. Number 2 is being interesting. And number 3 is just being legitimate. Like Google wants to make sure that you're not some sort of fly-by-night funeral home. That's where that legitimacy piece fits in. Interesting is how long are people spending on your site? We'll talk about that more in just a little bit. And then of course the popularity is the first thing I'm going to talk about. And I think it's a little ironic. What I've seen, especially in other agencies or other spaces, is that, and even within ours, I guess, SEO agencies spend a lot of time talking about the legitimacy piece because it's easy. I'll launch that in just a second, but let's talk about the popular part. And I want to be very clear about something before I start. When somebody tells you that they can guarantee that what they do to your website will get you to be the #1 search result, I promise you one thing right now is that it's not true. I don't know if you guys have seen Wolf of Wall Street, but this is kind of a fun slide. It's a fugazi, it's a fugazi. The idea, like, none of us actually, not like, we don't fully know how precise the Google algorithm is, and it varies all the time. There are going to be days when you're #1, there's going to be random days when you're #4, and then you're back up to #1, and nobody knows why this happens. But there are some things that we can do to guarantee that you are a top result and often #1, depending on your market size, with just these 3 parameters that I just showed just a bit ago. So the first thing, as you guys saw here, is being most popular. So what is being most popular? It is literally a popularity contest. I mean, it's a lot like being the most popular person in high school or something. The idea is that you want to be the most popular website based on your competitors or based against your competitors. But when it comes to Google and SEO, it's really more so like a link contest, because the links determine if you're popular or not. And I know we all know what a link is, but let's talk about the way that like Google does this. And I'm going to use just like a pop reference here. So we all know about Barbie. It's on its way to becoming one of the biggest movies of all time. But you can see here that this is a BuzzFeed article on the movie Barbie in 27 outfits. You can see right away, like as we look at this, there's links all over this article. There's a Barbie.com right here, on strike with SAG-AFTRA, Margot Robbie's amazing looks. All of these are links. And these links will act like a bridge to Barbie.com. got a nice little crude drawing here of a bridge, but that's the basic idea, is that this link right here, this Barbie that you see here highlighted as a link, is a bridge to Barbie.com. Google maps all of this out. So all of these links are mapping to different websites or mapping to Barbie.com. And Google is aware of this. So this is how it's gauging your popularity. And when you look, there's several of these links that also have links on their site to Barbie.com. So if I'm on BuzzFeed.com, this Barbie link is being linked back to Barbie. So hopefully that makes sense. Here's the thing, is that not all links are created equal. When you look at like BuzzFeed, Mattel, New York Times, Airbnb, these are massive companies with very, very prominent domains. BuzzFeed.com is a very, very famous website, has tons of traffic. When BuzzFeed.com has a link to Barbie.com on their website, that means a lot more than like TexasToyMuseum.com or IowaDiecastToys.com. Like none of us know those two things, but we all know the New York Times, we all know Airbnb. These links are much, much more valuable than the thousands of other links that are, just smaller websites. So that is the first thing that matters, is that you want links to your website on other people's websites. Okay. That is the biggest chunk of SEO. That is what Google is going to pay attention to the most. Hey, there's a bunch of other people talking about this person. This person must be pretty important. Let's rank them higher. This website must be a little bit more important. Let's rank them higher. So that's how that part of it works. The second biggest chunk of this pie is being interesting. What is that? I mean, it's very, very simple. It's just a matter of how long is somebody staying on your website. And that's it. Sorry, I just lost my slide there. The third piece is the legitimate piece. So, and legitimacy can be kind of broken down into a couple of small categories. Number one, Google just wants to make sure that the search result that they're recommending is not a scam. They don't want to lead their searchers astray. So that's the number one thing, is your age. They want to see how long your domain's been around. They want to make sure that you have a Google My Business page, that you've got an address and a phone number and maybe a set of hours. And then the third thing within this small 15% slice is your performance of your website. So how long the pages take to load. Large images, big videos or something like that within your website will slow down the page load time, and that dings your SEO just a tiny bit. A couple of other small things that only affect this, again, the small percentage of legitimacy, are like getting a brand new website. Now, I don't mean switching website providers, but what I would mean here is like going from funeralhome.com to smithfuneralhome.com. You've changed websites, that will hurt your SEO. You'll pretty much have to start all over again. So that's the one thing that's really important, is just keeping your domain forever. We're never going to get rid of MemoryShare.com. We spent a lot of time making sure that it's a legitimate domain, etc. If we change it to like ms.com, all of that would be null. Next thing is bad reviews. They're going to hurt your business, and of course, slow and not be mobile friendly. So addressing these bad reviews right away, it's a really important piece. And then of course, there's a couple of things you can do to the images on your site to speed up your page, but not mobile friendly. Honestly, that doesn't really apply to us in this profession, because a lot of us are using a very, like Tukio, CFS, Batesville, these sites, all these, Tribute Tech, all these sites have good mobile presences. So you don't have to worry about the performance piece of the SEO a lot. But one thing I wanted to be really clear about is that you see a lot of agencies focusing on the reviews, focusing on these smaller percentages, the performance, the Googling My Business, making sure that your listing is good, establishing the age of your business and the performance. And these agencies focus on those things because it's easy. It's the easiest thing to do within SEO. I mean, all of us right now, you could stop listening to me talk. You could walk out, take a picture of your funeral home, come back in, post it on your Google listing page. Done deal. You just save yourself $1,000 that an agency would tell you to do that anyway. Like, these things are very, very simple and easy to fix. And this is why so many agencies focus on these controllables, because it is significantly harder to generate links and become popular from an SEO standpoint. And it is significantly harder to convince somebody to spend more time on your funeral home's website or on your website just in general. So these two things, although that they this is partly why the Google algorithm thinks of it this way. Well, if other people are talking about it, it's important. They don't control, the buzz of what others are saying. Like Barbie.com didn't reach out to BuzzFeed and ask them to write that article. They just did it. So Barbie.com got some play for that. Same with the interesting piece. There's no guarantee that you can create things that keep people on your site for a really long time. Like, why are you interesting? Being interesting online actually takes a lot of work. Okay, but how can we apply this to funeral homes? I mean, this is kind of the secret piece. And this is actually really, really easy. It can be broken down into two simple ways. Again, thinking about this pie chart, how are we going to get funeral homes to be more popular or get more links, and how are we going to get them to be more interesting? There's two ways you do this. You just get more links than your competitor, and you get people to spend more time on your website than your competitor. Okay. And the unique thing here is that funeral homes have an advantage in this. And I'm going to explain that here in just a moment. But to give context, I'm going to compare like a funeral home to a non-funeral profession business. So if we look at like DallasWindowWasher.com, for instance, you can see here in the top left of my little white box, there's 20 links talking about DallasWindowWasher.com. And as you look at these, you probably don't recognize any of them, but there's 20 other websites that are talking about DallasWindowWasher.com. Okay, so this is about how as popular as DallasWindowWasher.com is going to be. But the truth is that it's just a boring business. Like none of us are scrolling TikTok or Instagram or Facebook looking for that really cool window washing content. It just doesn't happen. Okay, so it's a very uphill battle for DallasWindowWasher.com to be interesting. So if he hired, or if this company hired a SEO agency, they would just tell him to make content, because the best thing he can do is get to be more interesting, because not many people are going to be sharing links about DallasWindowWashing.com. The New York Times is never going to say anything about DallasWindowWasher.com unless something crazy happens. So the SEO agency would come in and say, hey, make some content. We want to get people to be on your website more. Content, content, content is king. You hear this a lot. And like people like Disrupt Media, like and Ryan and his team, they do a great job with this. They talk about content a lot, being engaged with your community, etc. It's very, very important. SEO is not going to be any different. You want to be interesting. Here's the advantage that funeral homes have is that obits are interesting and newsworthy. So we look at DallasWindowWasher.com. If you guys remember, he has 20 links. Okay, compare him to Wrestling Funeral Home here in Dallas. Look at this. They have 1,400 links going back to WrestlingFuneralHome.com. And if you look at this list, like 8 to 9 out of the 12 of these. Wikipedia, New York Post, AOL, Wisconsin.edu, Rolling Stone, DallasNews.com, Lyft, CBS Sports. These are massive, massive websites. This DR means domain rating. Anything above a 40 is pretty good. These are smash hits. And the reason that that funeral homes have this advantage is because, like I said, obits are interesting and newsworthy. News sites have been around for a very, very long time. It's kind of funny that the newspaper is now regaining some relevance on this side, but the newspaper websites are important and they give a lot of SEO juice, you would say, to this funeral home. So Wrestling did a service for David Farady's son. And this is a huge deal. And this is where you have like the Rolling Stone links back to Wrestling Funeral Home. You have, University of Wisconsin-Madison, massive site, a .edu, very, very, like Google recognizes both Rolling Stone and edu is a really big deal. These are both linking back to Wrestling Funeral Home. And the funny thing, it's kind of like sad actually, is that if Wrestling Funeral Home wanted to get into window washing, which obviously they won't, they could make a page on their website just saying, wrestling funeral or wrestling like window washing. And literally overnight, they would beat out the Dallas window washer because wrestling's site already has like the Rolling Stone, the New York Times, CBS Sports is already linking to them. So Google already would recognize, well, if wrestling's getting into window washing, they're by far the most important thing in window washing. So overnight, Wrestling Funeral Home could swallow Dallas window washing whole from an SEO standpoint. So that's great. But it's also unfortunate because of all of us as funeral homes have the same advantage. So ultimately, like SEO is a zero-sum game because of this reason, because literally all of wrestling's competitors can do the same thing. If they get a notable service, or even if they just have a higher volume one month, they might have more links coming to their site. Dallas News might pick them up, whatever. All funeral homes have this advantage. So the key is, if you're competing against another funeral home, you only have two things that you need to do to rank higher. You need more links than your competitor, and you need people to be spending more time on your website than another competitor. Now, I did want to say, like, there's a secret weapon to all of this, and this is where this all kind of ties together for me, as for us at MemoryShare. Got to throw in, another pop culture reference here, is that live streams generate links. And you might be asking, well, how? So I will show you here. But just to remember, 60% of the parts of SEO that matters is just being popular. And the secret weapon here is that live streams can generate links. And this would be how. So we work very closely with newspapers. All of us here in the funeral space work closely with newspapers. When newspapers post about services that you're doing, you have like Action 5 News here is an NBC affiliate. This is a really, really prominent, authoritative website in the eyes of Google. Same with this over here, Wilson Police Department. You can see that this is a Wilson Raleigh News article. This is likely an affiliate of somebody else as well, like NBC or CBS, whatever. These two sites are really, really a big deal. And if you look closely here, down here it says click here to watch the funeral. Well, this links back to that funeral home. A live stream of the service will be made available to the public. This links back to the funeral home. So boom, just like that, just for streaming one service, we're able to get really, really important traffic and really prominent link building back to our website. So that's just one way that we can kind of build this bridge between other prominent sites and our own site. Okay. Okay, so number one, get more links. Number two, how are we going to be more interesting? So this is also pretty simple to break down, but I'm just going to give some context between a funeral home site that does not have a video compared to one that does. So what we're seeing from our website partners is that on average, funeral home sees about 5 minutes of page view time, which is actually really high. Most websites see a minute or less per page. A Facebook Live video sees about an average of a 2-second watch time. But funeral homes have, again, an advantage within the obituary being such an important, interesting, and newsworthy thing. So people come in and they read the obit. They might leave a comment. They might send some comfort. They're going to spend some other time there reading other comments and maybe just kind of browsing some of the other people and see if you've worked with anybody they know, that kind of a thing. So 5 minutes is awesome. That's a great time. But when we comb through the MemoryShare database and we check out the average view time for every service that we've ever done over the last 11 years, we see an average watch time of 45 minutes. So 9 times the amount of time is spent on an obituary that has a video compared to one that doesn't. 9 times. You can be, in the eyes of Google, 9 times more interesting if you just record a service. So again, we're looking at these two things. When you have a stream that can generate links and create popularity for you in the eyes of Google, and you have people coming and staying on your website for an extremely long time, these are just two magic bullets. I mean, live streaming could potentially be one of the most important things that you do for SEO. And I promise you right now, it is significantly cheaper than hiring a $5,000 a month agency to just come in and clean up your photos and fill your head with like, oh yeah, we got these results. A funeral live stream is guaranteed viewer traffic and popular links. If you're streaming and people, you never know who you're going to serve. And if you just happen to find and have somebody prominent, it's the one service like that David Verity service did more for Westland Funeral Home than a SEO agency could ever recreate. So it's a very unique space that we are in here with SEO and funeral homes. However, there's one thing that really, really matters, and I don't mean just like any live stream could do this. I mean, this is the one extremely, extremely important detail for creating links and being interesting. The live stream has to be embedded. It has to be embedded. And you might think like, who cares, right? It's not like that big of a difference. You have like You have the video here, so we can watch this service here, great. Or we can just click here to watch the live stream. Like, well, why does that matter? You know, it's not that big of a deal. And you know what? You might even like the look of just having like a text here versus having like a big photo or something like that. But here's the deal, is that if you are coming to this website and you're watching an embedded service like this one here on the left, you're staying on the funeral home's website to watch it. If you are coming to this website, this funeral home's website on the right to watch this service, you're clicking a link and you're leaving. You are leaving funeralhome.com to go watch a service on whoever's, you know, whatever video player, whatever streaming company you're using. You leave funeralhome.com to go watch this. So every single thing that I just talked about becomes completely irrelevant. And in fact, not only are you paying a live streaming provider, you're also giving them your traffic. You're giving them the thing that Google uses to recognize you as popular and interesting. You're giving them the competitive advantage that you are fostering. You're just giving that away. So that's something that's really, 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 really important. And it's just kind of funny because a lot of our competitors, like if you search for funeral live streaming companies, MemoryShare is buried. I mean, we're not even on the first page. And when I go through and I look, you know, we have tools to check how many links of these exist. So when I look at this viewing link here, I can get that link and I can use a database tool that we have, and I can see how many of those exist. And I look, aside from one of our competitors, if you group all of the other ones together, they're not doing quite as many streams as MemoryShare. So if you take all of our competitors combined, except for one, and then you put them together, they're still not doing quite as much volume. So of course, MemoryShare should be the first thing that we see when we search for funeral live streaming companies. However, we are not, because I mean, we tried to do this at one point, like back in like 2014, we were really, really ramped up about SEO. We thought that, you know, we should, honestly, I didn't even know how big the funeral industry was when I first started. So, you know, we were like, we got to get our name out there as best we can. But we noticed as time went on that it was much, much more valuable. It was a much higher proposition for us to be able to give this traffic back to the funeral home. Because again, as a funeral home or as a business owner, I want to make sure that there's an ROI for our customers as well. And so, yeah, when you search, and you guys could do this right now, if you search for funeral live streaming companies, MemoryShare is not going to be the top result. These ones are, because a lot of these guys have a similar flow that you see here. You know, they have this click here to watch this stream, and they leave and they go to like oneroomstreaming.com, youtube.com, you know, forgetmenot.com, whatever. And that's totally okay. Like these are great companies that have good technology, but I'm just saying from an SEO standpoint, this is doing zero for your funeral home searchability. Okay. And that's why, you know, it kind of gets a little scary actually when you look and see like, well, okay, if I'm looking for a funeral home, like you know, or I'm looking for a funeral stream, I'm going to see these options first. I'm not actually going to see the obit. So it's a huge, huge piece for us, and it's something that you guys should consider if you're looking around at streaming providers and, you know, just kind of curious about what, you know, what ones would look like or who you could work with. Doesn't matter to, you know, like who you end up picking. A lot of technology is you know, the playing field has been leveled quite a bit, but you should be very, very cognizant of these two differences, especially when it comes to if you care about being ranked first. So one thing that we noticed here is that like we really wanted to put our money where our mouth was. It wasn't enough to just assume and guess that these categories, you know, being more popular or being more interesting, like we were like, how does live streaming actually really play into this? And so just this year, we launched a small beta. This is a very, you know, there's a secret thing for our customer base only. We just launched a little beta to start tracking certain keywords. So I'm not going to show you guys the whole thing because it's really just for our people only, and it's a strong competitive tool, but I'll show you a couple of keywords that we've been tracking. So you saw that Marshall, Minnesota funeral home at the beginning of this slide, beginning of this presentation. This is a pretty awesome. They started streaming a lot more of their services and they embed them. And what we can see here is after we launch them into this little beta reporting tool, bottom corner here where this little circle is going, you can see when they started with us, they were ranked third. They were ranked third when people were searching for, this is the keyword, Marshall, Minnesota funeral home. Now, because they streamed a few more of their services, they're ranked first. This is massive. I mean, this is the point right here. On a business level, like this is it. This is it. You know, one more example here, and then we can launch into the tech a bit. this is a funeral home in a much bigger market. So these guys are out in Florida, and they've been working with us for a little bit longer, but the competition is like much different. I think there's 11 different funeral homes in their area. Now I have this big black bar here because I'm not going to share uh, who it is, and I'm not going to share the keywords that we're generating for them and monitoring for them. But this is one of them. When people are looking for funeral homes, they're, well, funeral home near me. They type this out. We want our customers to be the top. Bottom line, I want our customers to be the top 3 all the time. This is why we do what we do. You can see when they started with us, they were 6th. They were 6th. Okay, there's a good chance that, like, when somebody's searching for funeral homes near me, they're not going to get to 6. There's no way that those 5 funeral homes in front of them were missing a call. I mean, like, the chances of that are way lower, right? But now they're ranked 2nd. And this is a massive piece for us. And just a little note, if you see here, you can see like the estimated cost per click is what the CPC stands for. So in the parameters of us doing this search, in their lifetime, they've gone up 4 spots. In the last month, they've gone up 3 spots in searchability. But 165,000 times in their region, anybody has searched for funeral home near me. So somebody has typed into Google funeral home near me almost 165,000 times in their area. And if this funeral home wanted to pay an SEO agency to generate this kind of traffic and to be the first result and to get the ones that are, searching for funeral homes near me, even if 10%, so if 16,500 people, even if 10% of people clicked on this funeral home would spend almost, what is that? It's like $92,000 in ads or in cost per click just to get the same kind of traffic that they're getting with a significantly less monthly subscription to a live streaming service. So this is just a little bit of context here that I wanted to share as far as why this is important and ways that live streaming can really benefit the business and of course provide tremendous value for the families. So I'm going to launch into the technology next. Like I said, I've talked about the tech quite a bit, and we have some resources on our site where you can kind of go and see some of what I'm about to talk about as well. But before I do, I want to take a small break. And do we have any questions on any of that SEO part of this?
Hi, Kyle. Yeah, there's a couple questions. First, I want to say I like your slides. Very good job.
Getting
Excellent.
colorful this year.
Yeah, very colorful. You said something earlier about keep your domain name forever. What if you're bought, like someone buys your funeral home and changes the name along those lines?
That's a really good question. And it's not up to you anymore, really. Yeah, wow. Yeah. Is all right. So yeah, so say for instance, like I have KyleFogartyFuneralHome.com. When you are going through the process of succession and selling, keep that. Like do not redline that out. If you really care about your domain, keep it. There's some funeral homes that we work with that have 5-letter domains. Those are old sites. They're very well established, and there are no 5-letter domains available anymore. If I went on and tried to buy a 5-letter domain, I physically cannot do it. So like if you're selling and you're willing to give up the domain, that's fine. That's up to you. But if you're not, don't. If it's your name, don't give up the domain. You know what? If somebody's buying you, that's also might be like brass tacks here. But if somebody's buying you and you don't give them, that's their problem. Like it's definitely up to you. If somebody's buying you, it's going to be up to them to rebuild the reputation of that site if they decide to change the domain. But yeah, that would be something that is definitely situational, and I'm not going to get too granular on that, but it would definitely come down to the contract terms.
All right. And one more question. You said the live streams have to be embedded. Have you found that even, I don't know, 2 weeks after a funeral that people are still watching it, and that you monitor how many hits it still gets or views it still gets afterward, where someone said a month later, oh, I missed that, but they're able to come back and watch it?
Oh, that's such a great question. The last webinar I did with Kates-Boylston, I went off on this, shared a lot of slides about it. And whoever asked that, if you want to email me, Kyle@MemoryShare.com, I'm happy to share some of that stuff with you. But here's the nitty gritty of what's going on with retention viewership, is what I would call that. There is a fall off. That's the truth. Service is scheduled for tomorrow. September 21st, you're going to get the bulk of your viewers on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, maybe within the 7 days of that service. That's when the most of it's going to happen. That's true. And everybody sees that, even with comments on obits and stuff. What we've seen, so we don't take them down because for years families will come back and watch. And I want your funeral home to be in that family's brain for the rest of their lives as well. So when it's time for them to plan or when it's time for them to come to you, they are remembering some of the service that you gave them. And what we have seen, and I wish I should have put this in here, but what we have seen, so we still have services that are being watched from 2013. Just this year, people have come and watched services that occurred in 2013. And that's a huge piece as far as like family retention. If I know that for the rest of my life, I can go back to fogartyfuneralhome.com and I can go watch my grandma's service, I will do that. And so that's just like a sticky point. It's a way for you to stay in the minds of people forever. And so, yeah, keep them up. If the families want you to take them down, that's fine. But you can still hold on to the video as well. A couple of weeks ago, I got an email from a customer of ours that asked for a copy of a video from 2015. So what was that, 7, 8 years ago? What year are we in? 2023 already? Time's not real after the pandemic. But so yeah, so 8 years, a service that's 8 years old, the funeral home reached out to us and said, hey, can we get a copy of that? Why did that happen? 8 years had passed since that service. You know that somebody in that family knew that they could ask that funeral home for a copy. So to me, like I see this as like this is an amazing way to like plant a tree and just let it bloom for you forever. You never know when you're going to have another connection point. You never know, like potentially that them knowing that you did that video for them opens up the conversation to make like maybe we can talk about planning your service, or it's just another opportunity for you to spread your net and get bigger. So yeah, so yes, short answer to answer the question again, the viewership does fall off a little bit after that first week. Of course, that's totally normal, but the viewership does not ever stop. And from what I've seen so far, I only have, like a 10-year window of evidence. It doesn't stop. Like every year, somebody is going to come back and watch it. Anytime somebody thinks about that person coming back to watch or the death anniversary, etc. So huge, huge deal. And you miss out on potentially doing that because if you don't record or stream. So that's a huge piece. And what I have found too, even for my own friends, like it's part of the grieving process as well. So viewership definitely falls off more after like 90 days. But as people are dealing with the aftermath of the loss, they will come back and watch. And even the family the next day might want to come back and rehear what so and so said during the eulogy. So it's a tremendous value for families. But if it's done correctly, it's also tremendous value for your funeral home. Stan, I think I can do one more question, then I'll riff on the tech. You got anything else?
That's it for now, Kyle, but we'll take them at the end. So thanks.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's blast into this. There's two silos of technology. So yeah, okay, we got all this SEO. We got this. We know that we want to do this. And maybe a lot of you who are watching right now are already streaming. There's just really two silos to the technology surrounded to stream. How do we get these services on our website? That kind of stuff. Two things. You have hardware, you have software. Hardware, your camera, your microphone, your iPhone, like cables, whatever, you guys get it. It's hardware. It's a physical thing that's in front of you. And then there's the software. There's billions of these, but there's the software piece that you need to actually encode and stream video. So you can take the video from your camera and send it to the web. And that's about it. And then within the funeral profession specifically, there's just in-house camera systems and mobile systems. One Room does a phenomenal job of just installing cameras in the one room. Like you have it in your chapel, multiple angles, etc. That's an in-house system. MemoryShare, I'm obviously biased, but I think that we're one of the easiest mobile systems. We work with in-house systems too, but mobily, of course, you're taking like an iPhone or a Mevo or something like that out and about. So there's hardware and software. And then there's just two different delivery modes, like in-house or mobile. And ideally, you find a company that can work with both in-house and mobile systems because you never know what's going to happen. And you guys know way better than I do that people always change their mind last minute. And you might need to just whip out a phone and record the service because they just remembered that so-and-so can't be there. I mean, you want to be able to be flexible. So being able to find somebody that can work with both is going to be paramount for you. Before I launch into like the hardware and the software specifically, I kind of want to set context about like what I've seen on the family side of things. So I just spent, the first half of this talking about value for the funeral home, but the family is why we do all this anyway. And what I love, this is my favorite email. It's about a year and a half old now, but this is my favorite email I got from a good friend of ours, Connecticut Life Tributes. They received this email from a family, and these 6 sentences or whatever, I feel like encapsulate everything as far as the value proposition of why it matters for people to have their services recorded. So, Dean, just been able now to watch the video last Saturday. I am in awe. You did such a wonderful job, and I was able to experience many precious moments that I was too distracted to recognize at the time. I've received so many comments about what a meaningful and lovely service this was. Thank you so much for all you've done. P.S. How long does it stay around? It stays accessible on your website. Wow. Amazing. I didn't even ask for this. And, I was just so thankful that they had sent this to me because I don't get to hear this kind of stuff all the time. But this is it right here. These are the people that we are serving. And for us as funeral home, within the funeral home profession, like, it's kind of a weird thing to say, but you are offering or selling a product. The product is specifically service. I feel like that's the number one. It's the higher ticket item. Like, it's the most important for humans in general to be able to grieve and have closure. Like, service provides these things. I think all of us can share in common. We would much rather see a family do a service for their own sake as well than just doing a direct cremation. But everybody's different. It's not fair to do a sweeping generalization. But this to me just really encapsulates it. Like, she's able to see what occurred during that day. I mean, you guys know better than anybody what it's like for families to go through a funeral. It is a blur for them. And so being able to record these things and keep these memories, I mean, there's things that are going to be said at this service that will never be said again. So to be able to hold that and give that, they will remember that and value that for years and years to come. So I just wanted to share this. I just really, really was thankful. And if any of my customers are watching this right now, send me some more of those. Those are encouraging. The last thing here is I wanted to show, this is a good friend of mine, runs a home in North Carolina. He started, this is an old text, but it still is very relevant. He started streaming in December 2020. So, pandemic is still kind of going on. And in the first weekend, I think he streamed like 8 times. So I underestimated how big he was. But then, fast forward like 5 months, he had streamed 30 to 40 times a month, every month. And it just kind of blew me away. I was like, what is happening here? Why are you just doing this for everybody, And we ended up getting to get on the phone and talk about it. But I sent him this text. Hey, can you do a Zoom? I want to feature you because, wow, for me, I was like, this is crazy volume. And he just responded, man, for sure. This is the secret here, though, or this is the key. You have changed the game. Whoops. You have changed the game, and you've made us the talk of our city. I'd do whatever you need. I did not change the game. I did not make him the talk of the city. He did by just recording services and putting them on his website. He did by live streaming the service and putting them on his website. Like, there was a MemoryShare, sure, like, we're the vehicle, but like, it wasn't me. It was the fact that he just took a little bit of time, trained a couple of staff on how to click record one time on an app, and then boom, now he's the talk of the city in just 4 months after streaming. Exceptional. I just love that. So a little bit of social validation. Let's jump into the tech, the software. Let's start there. There's a billion of these. Sometimes I feel like there's like more streaming or software in general than there are grains of sand. You could spend all day finding a new live streaming provider. There's a lot of names here that you recognize. There's a lot of names here that you probably work with already. What I'm trying to say here is that this is a deeply saturated space, and there is no like one size fits all. And like I said earlier, there's not too many companies that do a hardware and software. It's very, very rare. Actually, if any of you guys know one, hit Stan in the chat. I'd love to know. I can't really think of any. But these are just examples of software. There's a lot here that you guys recognize. Of course, I put myself in the middle because, it's a MemoryShare presentation. Second piece is the equipment, the hardware. Okay. Photoshop pictures of iPad on a stand, and then on the right, that's one that's actually in use. This is very, very, very easy. This is by far the most simple. Getting a camera app, setting up a mobile device, click and record, done deal. You can get everything that everything that we just talked about on the SEO side of things with just an iPhone. I mean, very, very simple. Now there are many, many levels to the hardware. I mean, it's just as vast and wide as like the software space. There's a million different pieces of software. There's a million different cameras. What is the right answer? Sorry to say, but it varies. Varies on your budget, varies on your equipment, varies on what your building is like. As somebody who used to do events for a living, I can promise you that every single room that you use is different. Okay, but these are just some examples of both the mobile and the in-house systems. A couple of pros and cons, and then what you need to do a in-house system, and then we'll wrap this up here. So about 2 more minutes. In-house system is definitely more complex. I mean, you need a camera, chapel sound, of course, your computer, your monitor, desktop broadcast software. You need 2 pieces of software when you're streaming in-house, because when you're bringing camera feeds, when you're bringing video in from a feed, you have to send it down to a computer. That computer has to make it into a internet streaming protocol, I guess is the way that you would say it. So you do have to convert a video signal to send it back up to the internet. To do that, you do need a computer. Live streaming software, of course, as well, like a Facebook, YouTube, MemoryShare, and then the cost is significantly higher. I mean, this is a picture of my buddy's chapel and his in-house system. You don't see the cameras in this photo, but it's mounted just to the top right corner of this window. Great setup he has here, but you can see it's a lot more elaborate. He's got double monitors, he's got an audio board, and then these are all cables running out to his chapel. This is an in-house system. The pros and the cons are pretty great, honestly. I mean, the pros are it's very, very stable because it's plugged into a wall. There's very, very low stream failure rates then, especially when you're hardwired in. Even in the event world, if we could run a cable and it was even 2% more reliable than a wireless connection, we did it every time. Because the bottom line is you got to have it to work, and you do whatever you can to have as low stream failure rate as possible. Because you're using a computer and it has a much bigger brain, you can record higher quality video. You need a strong computer for that, but you have that flexibility. And of course, you have more control and more customization. So when you're doing a broadcast through a desktop, you can control what plays before the stream. So for a lot of our customers, we've made like little pre-need commercials or little intros with their logo, just, hey, come visit us here, or promoting, future lunch and learns. You can just put a little slide up, very similar like you guys saw at the very beginning of this webinar. Just, Lucia sent like a couple of events that are coming up for them. You can do the exact same thing if you're streaming with an in-house camera system. Cons, of course, it's a higher cost. Of course it is. You think all this stuff, it doesn't cost as much as an iPhone. It does require a human to be there and running it. And a lot of funeral homes do not have the luxury of an extra staff member that can just babysit a stream when a funeral is happening. But for those of you that have it, you have it. It's a lot more complex to set up, and there are more variables, because even as you look at this picture, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things are plugged into this little board. That's 10 different cables that could fail you today. That's 10 different things that you might have to check if something is not working. And then, of course, with an in-house camera system, you're not moving that anywhere. There's no way you're packing any of this up and bringing it to the church, the country club, the graveside, whatever. Mobile system, you guys all know this very well by now. iPhone, iPad are my favorites. You have a much better standard of quality with them. You know what you're going to get with the hardware, but Androids work for certain streams. Yeah, iPhone, iPad is what I like. Tripod mount. Microphone is not required, but definitely helps. And then, of course, if you're going to stream outside of your funeral home or outside of Wi-Fi, you need some sort of data package. And I put 2200 on the top end here. You could go crazy and get like an insanely nice brand new iPad or something, and that would bring this cost up a little bit. But on average, you might not even have to spend 800 if you have a tripod in the funeral home and you have a phone in your pocket. You're actually already good to go, and you don't have to pay for that. So, but pros and cons are a bit different for the mobile system, and we've done hundreds of thousands of streams at this point. And what I've learned here so far is that mobile is by far the easiest to use. Any age group can use it. We have retired part-time help running streams on the mobile app. It's very easy to see, and people like the iPads because you have a nice big screen for the interface. I don't know how much more simple it can get. I mean, you literally, tap an app and then tap record and you're going. And then, of course, you can take it anywhere, which is really, really nice because not every funeral that you're doing is in your funeral home. The cons, so the brain on an iPhone is smaller than the brain in a computer. That's the bottom line. So, you are going to be limited to some degree of what quality you can stream and what quality you can record. It's going to be capped. You can't kind of keep increasing quality, but you can still get great quality within a mobile device. And actually, my next slide here, I'll show you with an example of that. Audio has become quite the thing here recently. I got a lot of people, we discuss audio quite a bit, and it's another variable, but if you want just the iPhone standalone, it can still work really well. But if you know, a lot of people are bringing like an iPad or an iPhone and they're putting it in the very, very back of the church or the room, whatever. And you know, if it's a little bit quieter to your ears, it's way less quieter to an iPhone. You know, your ears are working a lot better than an iPhone's microphone. So it's something to consider, that the distance that the device is away from the action that's occurring, that distance, that's a long time for audio to decay on its way to you. So that is a con, is like sometimes like the audio just isn't good, depending on where the placement is. So you might have to fire up a wireless mic or something. You have one more thing that you have to turn on. So just another variable, which I know day of a service, like we're trying to minimize variables, but so that's one con for the mobile, but and then of course it's not quite as stable as a computer, and it's not plugged into a wall. So if you're serving a family that might have a visitation for 8 hours and they want you to stream the whole thing, you better go plug that thing in. Whereas if you're doing that in-house system, thing can run all day and all night if you want, because it's plugged in the wall. All right, last couple of slides here, guys, and we can hop on out of here. So, or we'll do some questions and we can hop on out. All right, so this is, I'm going to change my audio output. And I'll show you guys, this is a, before I play this is an iPad mini with a wireless microphone added, but you can see that this is outside and this is up in Minnesota. So let me do my built-in output here. And you can hear how great this actually sounds.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Our sister Joanne has gone to her rest in the peace of Christ. May the Lord now welcome her to the table of...
All right, you guys get it. So that was just a wireless mic with a mobile device. Sounds excellent. I mean, that is crystal clear, perfect audio. And then you can see that the quality is still really good. You know, we're outside here and like the highlights still look really good. There's a lot of detail within all of these people. Yeah, I mean, you can see the whites of their eyes, and this is an iPad. This is an iPad mini. I think, you know, the 5th iPad mini now that's out is, you can get one for like $300. So it's really, really easy to get it going. And the last thing I want to say is that, you know, for those who are still saying, I'm not technically savvy, I promise you it's not the way that it used to be. The technology is not the way that it used to be. You don't have to bring a computer out with you to stream everything. You shouldn't have to do that. You know, you can do a lot of things wirelessly, and toddlers can use iPhones and iPads. You know, like if you have photos or if you've answered an email or sent a text on your phone, you are qualified to stream. These days, it's not the way that it used to be. The tech is not as scary as it used to be. So there's my source for the toddler thing. So quick recap, tech isn't as scary as it used to be. There's great ways you can get started. Just pull a phone out of your pocket and get going. You know, subscribe or purchase a live stream software and you're up and going in like 3 to 4 minutes, depending on who you use. And then of course on the SEO piece, you want to make sure to compete in funeral home or to compete with other funeral homes in your area, you want to have more links on your website. You want to be more popular and you want people to spend more time on your site. And a quick refresh, if you stream, you have great ways to, you know, build another bridge back to your website with the newspaper companies. Have the newspapers, if they write up a story about somebody that you're serving, send them the link to your obit. Hey, tell people that they can watch the stream here, you know, open that up for them. And then if you do stream, you see an average of 9 times the amount of time spent on your website. So if you're streaming and your competitor isn't streaming, unless they are way, way, way older of a business, you are in a phenomenal position to compete with them on an SEO level in a place where every funeral home has incredible SEO. So we got to do what we can, that 1% to be better than the next, and streaming really does fit into that. So, all right, you guys, that is it. That's all I got for today. What are we at? Oh, 45 minutes. All right, let's hit some questions. Stan, you got any?
Got a couple here. If you're doing a live stream from a funeral in a cemetery, you ever have Wi-Fi issues?
Yeah, great question. We started yeah, of course you do. It depends. It depends on where you're at. So if you're doing a graveside service, like for us, like we started in North Dakota. Shane and I are from Fargo. So it snowed all the time up there. So don't tell the family you're going to stream if there's inclement weather. Don't tell the family that it's going to be live if you're out in the middle of nowhere, because a ton of cemeteries are. Just record it. If you know that you have good service out there, great. If you've ever had a problem having a phone call at a graveside, if you've ever had any sort of connectivity issues, I promise you're not going to be able to go live. It takes way less juice and power for a phone to do a phone call than it does to stream a video, because a stream is 30 seconds. Is 30 pictures a second. So that's a ton of data that your phone has to send up into the server. So yeah, if you don't have the best service at a live stream or at a graveside, do not say you're going to live stream it. Just record it. As long as you get a video, you're going to be all good. And worst case scenario, if all else fails, fire up your phone, open up your regular camera app, and record the video. You can always take care of it afterwards. As long as you get a video, everything's going to be okay. In my humble opinion, I thought live streaming got a little overhyped during the pandemic, because the real value that I saw was that, families had something that could give them closure and help them grieve, and they could reflect on for years to come. That's the real value. Live streaming is an exceptional time, and it's great for people to experience that. But yeah, you're at a graveside and you're a little worried, just don't even say it's going to be live. I mean, it's not worth it. Just record that thing and then you can upload it later.
Okay, Kyle, for new clients who approach you, you had the slide, even a 2-year-old could do it. What are their concerns? Are they scared a little bit about doing it, and you walk them through it and say it's really not that hard?
Yeah, I think so. I think what's tough is that at the end of the day, it's technology. And sometimes stuff just happens, you don't know why. Like sometimes you just got to turn your computer off and turn it back on again. And iPads and iPhones aren't really that different. The concerns that I get from people who aren't doing it now, when they call, like when I'm talking to maybe like a prospect, is they think it's more complex than it really is. And it doesn't have to be, and it isn't. And so that's probably my number one thing. There's some usability. The number one thing people want is simplicity, and we all do. That's why Apple's a $1 trillion company. It's because they kept their products simple but robust, and that's what funeral homes need as well. So yeah, there are some pieces there. There's also some parts where some people have been burned before, and this happens. Like you might be streaming on Facebook and then you play a song or whatever, and Facebook muted your stream, and then you did that 2 times in a row, and now they banned your account for 2 weeks. That's your own fault for streaming copyrighted music on Facebook. But that also makes you look bad to the family, but you had no control over that. And of course, you're still going to play that song for that family. It's important to them. Like you're not going to do the service or incorporate phenomenal music just because of a Facebook Live. So sometimes what I've seen is that people come and like, oh, well, we had an issue that one time, and so we just stopped doing it. That's the worst response that you could have. Like, oh, we had that issue that one time and we stopped. Why? So now for the rest of your time that you're a funeral home and director, you're not going to give value to people on that level anymore because one time it happened. I get it. Like it can happen. I've filmed many, many events. I once lost footage of an interview with Kevin Hart for the biggest job I'd ever done up to that point. I recorded like 10 minutes of an interview with Kevin Hart, and I lost the footage because it was corrupt. It was being written to a corrupt card. I didn't stop doing video ever again after that. I mean, it's like stuff happens. You just recover. You have another one. You'll have another opportunity. The value of each individual video that you're doing far outweighs a little bit of backlash that one time, 2 years ago. So I would just argue to keep an open mind. And also, if you don't want to do it, then just don't. Like that's fine. You don't have to. I mean, you're still going to be able to keep your doors open. I'm just saying that there's a lot of opportunity here, and we should explore that.
One more question, Kyle. You mentioned Apple, and I believe the iPhone 15 just came out. So should people keep upgrading their phones? Do they need to, or the older phones still do it fine?
Yeah. Bottom line, whatever the new device is going to be better on some level. That's why it's new. That's why it just came out. They made improvements. Every single iPhone has a better camera than its predecessor. That's true. That doesn't mean you need to upgrade every time. The iPhone X, the iPhone 10, which is now 8 years old, the videos still come out really well. So no, I'm not saying that every time, iPhone 14, I feel like just came out last year. I don't know when it did. I don't remember, but it feels like it was last year. That camera's still going to be great. I have an iPhone 12. It records 4K. You can stream great. It's fine. You don't have to upgrade every year. I will say though that I have noticed that the iPhone actually seems to be like, for whatever reason, Apple is actually investing just recently, especially with iPhone 15, they're investing more into the iPhone camera being better than like the most recent iPad camera. And I'm not exactly sure why. They used to be equal. They used to have the exact same camera in the iPad and the iPhone, but just this release, there's a better camera within the iPhone than the iPad. The only thing I would say to anybody who's still watching is that if you are using your phone, you don't want to use a phone that you also have to take calls on. You cannot stream and talk and use it at the same time, of course. But also, it's not worth giving up your phone. Just like we talked at the beginning, you want to answer the phone if somebody calls. Use a device that is not tied to your phone number, so you don't have to lose the phone line while you're also streaming at the same time. But I would recommend, I think iPhone. It's a little bit easier to carry around and stuff too.
That's an excellent point on the last one about your phone. Yeah, the last thing you need is it ringing in the middle of a service. So, yes.
It's bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't want to do that. And then the stream goes down as well. So
Yeah. All right, Kyle, thank you. And you can visit AmericanFuneralDirector.com and click on the webinars tab to sign up for future webinars and watch our library of past on-demand webinars. There's a few by Kyle there over the years. And also on our website, click on the events tab to find the information for our upcoming funeral service business plan that will take place on October 24th and October 25th in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Thank you to Kyle Fogarty again at MemoryShare. And thank you for all for joining us for our webinar. Be sure to keep an eye out for our follow-up email, which will include today's webinar recording. Kyle, any final words from you?
I did forget to mention, I'll be at that business event. So if any of you guys have watched this, I would love to talk to you more about it there. And then also, I have just a little checklist that you can do to update your SEO. And so if you have made it this far and you hear this, or if you've watched it this far, send me an email, Kyle at MemoryShare, or just info@MemoryShare, put checklist in the subject, and I'll send you just a free SEO checklist you can do. Just kind of give yourself a little audit and maybe give yourself a little boost without paying an arm and a leg to an agency.
Sounds good. I thought you were one of our speakers, but I didn't want to say it just in case you
Yeah,
weren't.
yeah. I had to throw that out there. Yeah, I'll be there.
Yes, I didn't have the list in front of me. All right, Kyle, I'll be in Virginia Beach, so I'll see you there in October. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Take care.
Thanks, guys.